Every day I see you is a fine day.
One battle after another. It's been a long awaited wait for Logan because it's taken me a while to watch it, but I finally got around to finishing it today. I started it on my birthday actually last week, and I finally got to finish it today. I mean, PTA, man, he had the biggest budget and the biggest return ever. The budget for this movie allegedly multiple sources have different numbers, but between the ranges of 130 and 175 million, and apparently on looking the research up for this movie, 202 million at the box office it made. So I really don't care about if this movie made its money back. I don't think it matters. This movie is it's big time for PTA, especially with on our last discussion about Paul Thomas Anderson, and we'll have an updated ranking of his movies here shortly. But I think with PTA, this is the biggest scale he's ever had, and I think he takes a lot of risk in this movie. It's a loosely based adaptation of Thomas Pynchon 1990 novel Vineland. And for those that don't know, he did have PTA has had another movie that's been an adaptation from a book. Inherent Vice is a 2009 novel, and obviously that movie came out in 2014. So Logan, your thoughts on one battle after another, and what were kind of your initial thoughts? I don't know if you've had a rewatch quite yet, but what are your thoughts on one battle after another?
Unfortunately, I have not rewatched it yet, but that is on the to-do list. I liked it. I thought it was funny. There were some parts that I wasn't really as much into compared to the people who were at my theater who were laughing all the time sitting behind me. And there was times where I wasn't laughing. I'm not quite sure what they're laughing at here, but I still think it was really funny. Sean Penn was hilarious. I thought Leo was really good. Chase Infinity, first role I've ever seen her in. I know she's on the show, the Apple TV show with Jake Gyllenhaal, so that's something I should probably check out. I thought Tiana Taylor was really good. I think everyone did really good. And the soundtrack was amazing. Filmmaking aspects, perfect. Expect nothing less from PTA. And I thought it was entertaining. I wish I watched it again before we went through this, but that's just something I'll have to do soon. I'd say the first 30 minutes or so, really, I wasn't as into that part as much. And we can get into that, but I'd say when we had that 16-year cut to when Leo becomes Bob Ferguson, I thought it was hilarious from that point on. And the movie was just great overall. I thought Benicio del Toro was funny. Um, but yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty well made. What about you?
So I think that for me, having the split of watching the first 30 minutes after the robbery and stuff like that, I think that was good for me just because the first 30 minutes were a lot. And I think initially, as I was watching it, I was like, this is really what all the hype was about. I knew there was some crazy moments. Obviously, Sean Penn is really wilding in this movie. I think if he gets an Oscar for this, I can't wait to see what the Oscar clips will be from this movie because he has some moments that are absolutely out of control. Tiana Taylor, I had never really seen her before. I know that she's been in, I think she was in the new White Men Can't Jump movie. She is Iman Shumpert's wife. I did not realize that. The former Cleveland Cavalier in the NBA, obviously, and Chase Infinity. I'd never seen her before on screen. I wasn't even aware that she was on a Apple TV show. She very much reminded me of the Alana Haim character in Licorice Pizza because I think that was her first feature film as well. So there's a lot of parallels between this movie and a lot of PTA movies, even though this movie really doesn't feel, other than the cinematography, like a PTA movie, just with the subject matter. I did have a question that I wanted to run by you. I actually had multiple questions for you, but the first question is, if you had to describe one battle after another in one word, what would you describe it as? I can go first if
Hmm.
you need an example.
Yeah, you go first.
So for me, I had two words. I had one that I was thinking of immediately just because with the Vineland novel that I have not read yet, I did download it as an audiobook, so I'll definitely try to check that out. But Vineland, for those that don't know, is a 1999 novel that is set in 1984 and it explores the 1960s fallout of counterculture. Now, I think counterculture is one word that you can describe because this really goes against it's for those that don't know and haven't seen the movie, it's Leo and his, I believe, wife played by Tiana Taylor are a part of this French 75 group and they are really just trying to start a revolution against the government. And they have a daughter who will, 30 minutes into the movie, we do have a cut after things happen. And after that, it's kind of a whole separate movie. So I really liked the, I guess, second two-thirds or the last two-thirds of the movie the most. I think the score, I think we have to mention is after we'll get your one word for the movie. I think the score we have to mention, this is Johnny Greenwood's sixth collaboration with Paul Thomas Anderson, and the score is one of the best parts, if not the best part about this movie. I think it definitely should be in contention for best score at the Oscars. I think counterculture is the one word I had, and then revolutionary, I think, is another word because I think PTA and One Battle After Another is very similar in my eyes with what Ari Aster is trying to do in Eddington, just because they're playing with the counterculture, they're playing with kind of the paranoia that I feel like everybody's kind of living with in a post 2020 world and COVID world,
Mhm.
where I feel like people aren't as paranoid as they were in the peak of the early 2020s. But I think nowadays it's really weird with nothing's really been the same since 2019. And I don't know if you're catching the same vibes. Obviously, we did discuss off air that you haven't seen Eddington yet, so I can't wait to get your thoughts on that. We might have to in the future do a little Ari Aster movie rankings. I don't know how many of those films. How many films have you seen of his? The Hereditary, Midsommar. Are you a Ari Aster guy?
I've seen Midsummer and Hereditary. I haven't gotten around to Beau is Afraid. This is crazy because Joaquin Phoenix is my favorite actor, and I still haven't watched Beau is Afraid or Eddington. I'm kind of just saving it for a good day, you know.
Save it for a day when you're in a good mentally stable place because Beau's Afraid takes some crazy turns. But I can't wait to talk about that eventually. So, did you have a one word definition of one battle?
Yeah, I did, and you actually said it when you were just describing the movie. Paranoia is my word because I think from the get-go all the way till the end, it is just sheer paranoia from all characters. You know, in the beginning, they're trying to save immigrants from a detention camp. I think there's a lot of paranoia there because that's a deliberate plan that you have to follow through to do so. And then paranoia, obviously, when Leo becomes Bob Ferguson. I mean, that's pretty much his whole character is just being paranoid. He doesn't use smartphones. He only uses payphones and whatnot. And then with Chase Infinity, whenever she is, of course, captured and taken away, she deals with a bunch of paranoia because she doesn't know who her real dad is. She's telling the guy at the end at the end of the car chase scene, she's like, "Tell me the code, and whatnot." So she doesn't know what to believe, especially when Leo rolls up. She's still freaking out. And I'd say paranoia for us audience too, because that car chase scene was very intense, very well made. But we're like, what is going to happen? Especially with, I think, how long they played out the Sean Penn is he the biological father experience. I remember that taking quite a while, and you're like, oh gosh, what's gonna happen? Like, it's kind of clear he's gonna be the father, just because that's kind of where the movie was gonna go. But it still takes a while to find out if he is or not. And so, because of all that, I will go with paranoia. And I would also say another word I was thinking was lukewarm, but that was really just my feelings on it because it had all this hype, all this money to it, and we'll get into it later on our rankings. I didn't like this movie as much as PTA's other films.
Yeah, I think I want to touch on one more thing before we get into the updated PTA rankings because I did have quite a bit of movement just because looking at my letterboxed PTA rankings, I had to make some movement, but we'll get to that shortly. But I did want to hit on the paranoia aspect. And I did have an interesting fact that I found while researching this. I don't know if it came out of the budget. I'm assuming it came out of that 130 million to 175 million dollar budget. But Leo got 20 million dollars for this movie. I wasn't sure if you knew that, but he's getting paid. And I just wanted to mention as a little tidbit before we have the Leonardo discussion at the end of our podcast. But I mean, the parallels between Leo and LeBron are crazy. I mean, it's crazy. We'll get into that a little bit, but I had to drop that nugget because I think they do compare very much as both of them have really ascended in the 2000s. We'll look at those movies later on. I definitely have to get a couple of those movies watched. I've heard good things about like Blood Diamond and movies like that in the 2000s, but we'll have to get into that. But right now, we are getting into our updated Paul Thomas Anderson rankings. For those that have not seen our video, I'll put it in the description below. But like we did in the initial ranking, we can go from 9 all the way up to number 1. We can go back and forth if you like, or I can give mine fully and you can give your thoughts on it and give yours as well. But we can go back and forth if you want. I'll start with number 9, Licorice Pizza. I think this, I'll say it with my number 8 as well. I think they can go interchangeably. I think Licorice Pizza and Punch Drunk Love are my 8 and 9. You can put them either way. Like we talked about in that episode, I think these movies are strong. There's no bad PTA movie. I think you can attest to that. Even though I know you aren't a huge fan of One Battle, but I think Punch Drunk Love, obviously Adam Sandler, he really took a different chance in that one. And then Licorice Pizza, I think is it's just kind of the way I think of it is the fun post-COVID ride with Philip Seymour Hoffman's son and Alana Haim. So I think those two are my 8 and 9. Who do you have there on the bottom of the very good PTA rankings? There's no bad movies as we've said before.
All right, I'll give you my 10, 9, and 8, so we are on the same
Oh, that's right. That's
number.
right.
So on my 10, I have Punch Drunk Love. My number 9, One Battle After Another, and then 8, I got Hard 8. For Punch Drunk Love, I was able to rewatch this within the last time we spoke about PTA. It's really good, and you said this already. There's no bad PTA film. I think all these movies are really good. Some of them are excellent, and some of them are good. And this 10, 9, 8 stretch are just good movies, and that is Punch Drunk Love, One Battle After Another, and Hard 8. For one battle after another, I just really wasn't a fan of like the first 30 minutes or so, or really the kind of the Tiana Taylor character on its own. It's just like she cheats on Leo with Sean Penn just so she can keep doing these revolutionary acts, which include robbing a bank, shooting a bank teller, cutting out a power grid to a city, which is just like, I didn't like that part at all because you could have people on your side fighting for what you believe, yet you still sabotage them by cutting out the power grid. And then they like in the end, it's just like she writes this letter that Leo shows Chase Infinity at the end. It's like I feel like I was supposed to forgive Tiana Taylor's character, but I don't know, I just didn't. So I think that's really the big thing that I have one battle after another low for is just that aspect of it. And then Hard Eight, I talked about already on that last show we did. It's just really fascinating. It's a how to trick Vegas type of movie, and it has really good performances from people young in their careers. Samuel Jackson, um, Gwyneth Paltrow, and John C. Riley. I think it's a very fun movie, and it's quick. It's easy to get through.
I forgot to put in Hard 8 onto my list, but it would be right in that bunch with the 8 and 9. I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen it fully, but it would definitely be in that. Coming in at number 7, 6, and 5, I'll do all in one cluster as well. I think these movies, obviously Daniel Day-Lewis in Phantom Thread, he commits to every single role that he plays. Magnolia, I think it could have been better if PTA cut some of the fat out of that movie. And then Inherent Vice, it's fun. It's a fun stoner comedy with some action, but I never really think the stakes are super high. It's kind of just like a mystery stoner movie. So those seven, six, and five for me. Your thoughts on the middle cluster of the PTA movies?
Yeah, seven, I have Magnolia. I agree with you. There's some fat to be trimmed, but really good aspects to it, and I like what he explores in that movie. I got number six, I got The Master. Now, this feels really low because this movie is awesome. It just speaks to how good PTA's films are and how much I love them. But this is one of those that I've seen it probably three times, but I hadn't rewatched it within these last 2 months of us talking. So maybe that's why it's lower than the others, but it's still really great. It's a really good psychological thriller. Number five, I got Licorice Pizza. I just kind of fell in love with like the nostalgia of it and the soundtrack, of course. You know, I think it's a really fascinating plot, and sometimes it's a little loose, but I do like just kind of the overall vibes and feel that you get from it. Um, so yeah, that was my 765 with Licorice Pizza at five.
So I have the Master at number four, and I think the Master, along with my top three as well, I think the performances are something that I always want in a PTA movie. I think the lead performances, obviously, we have people carrying it like Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix and the Master, and then as we get in that top three, the Boogie Night is just a barrage of characters, and I think that movie, what holds it so high for me is there's so many fun characters and peaks and valleys that you can go through in that movie. And then There Will Be Blood, obviously, I think has the best performance in any PTA movie. I think that's really, really indisputable with Daniel Day-Lewis as what's his name in that movie? I forget it.
Daniel Plainview,
Yeah,
Plainview.
Daniel Plainview, I think, is the go-to character. I mean that movie, along with No Country for Old Men, really holds 2007 to a high standard. So The Master, as I mentioned, is number four, and then I think we can just get into the top three. This is what the people want. We have a solidified top three. You did convince me a little. I think I had a little bit of recency bias with my top three. I don't want to. I mean, I could tell you I had one battle at number two, but as you were talking about, it, I was like, okay, that's kind of crazy. So I'm going to move it down to number three. So, number three, one battle after another for me. I think for one battle after another, the action in it really did it for me. At the end, you were talking about all I was seeing. I was trying to avoid spoilers as much as I could going through Twitter and Instagram. And all I could see was that road, that windy road. And I was like, okay, what happens on this road? So I really wanted to see the anticipation. I think for me, not seeing it for the first 2 months really built up to an unreal level, and it really paid off for me. I think the moment at the end, spoiler alert, where it's a guy chasing Leo's daughter, and then Leo not far behind him, and they're on the road. I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought any character could die at any moment, which I think is really rare. You didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, there's no way that Leo gets shot. But I thought it was a possibility. I could feel my toes curling. I could feel the sweat building up. I was nervous, a nervous wreck a couple hours ago when I did finish this movie. And I think that's like exactly what you want in a movie. And the experience of watching that, plus the comedy, I think there was some outlandish comedy which PTA always has in his movies. I think with Sean Penn, he had some ridiculous moments in the first 30 minutes. I think with his character being really goofy in parallel to the Josh Brolin character in Inherent Vice, just goofy. I think those two have a parallel. I think the Tiana Taylor character comes out of the gates on fire. I don't love the character in terms of her personality, but I do think she's on fire and she's a shooting star. And much like Margot Robbie in Babylon, the star fades, and when it fades quick. And I do think this movie is really interesting in the way that it balances good and evil and how
Mm.
the lines get blurred between should we be rooting for the French 75? Probably not, but I also don't hate them. Like they're not like a a terrible semen demon, like stealing the semen group as PTA just really knows how to mix the humor. I think he's one of the best directors in mixing like dark humor because it's not for everybody. I would not really show this movie to my parents. I would not throw this on just especially with that first 30 minutes, but I do think one battle after another, the way it just all comes together. I love the scale of it and the score. That's why it's in my top 3. And then number 2, I did move it down, but There Will Be Blood at number 2, and then Boogie Nights I think for me is number 1 just because the rewatchability of Boogie Nights. I can throw it on at any time. I can hop in at any time too, which I think is important. If
Mhm.
meeting everybody scene is on, I'll watch it. If the firecracker scene with um what's his face? Alfred Molina. If that scene's on, I'll watch it. I'll just watch every scene. I'll even pull them up on YouTube. So I think that's kind of why it's at number 1, but those 1 and 2, There Will Be Blood and Boogie Nights, I think are interchangeable. So your top 3 for PTA. I know that one battle didn't have an effect on those, I'm sure, but have you thought about your top 3 anymore or moved any of them around since we last talked about PTA?
Yeah, a little bit. So my number 4 was Phantom Thread. I'm a big fan of how meticulously made it is. I love the Johnny Greenwood soundtrack in it. Like this whole time, this whole podcast, I've had that like piano piece stuck in my head. It's so great. Number 3, I got Boogie Nights here. Um, I don't need to talk about how great it is. We know it. I think the only thing I need to explain is why is it number 3. Simply, number 2, I just love Inherent Vice so much. Big Joaquin Phoenix fan. I love everything about it. And honestly, as I'm talking about it right now, it kind of feels ridiculous that I have it at 2 over Boogie Nights. But I just kind of feel that way. I think it's really fascinating to watch over and over, trying to figure out the pieces of where everything goes, who is connected with, the Golden Fang and then the dentist. And then I find that just, as I said, I find that part really fascinating to go through. And I think it's hilarious too. Just great performances all around. And then number 1, it's easy for me. There Will Be Blood. It's just so fantastic. And I've only seen it once. A lot of these PTA films I've seen multiple times, except for There Will Be Blood and One Bell After Another. But it's just so great. There's everything about it I could rave about, but I'll keep it short. But that's my number 1. I I'm a little surprised that you have One Bell After Another so high already. Do you think it's just because you just got off watching it?
100%.
Um, yeah. Do you think if you watched other films, other PTA films, it could go like it
I
could vary?
I think the films that I do need to give a little bit more time on and like sit with a little bit more. I think Phantom Thread I need to give another watch. I've only seen that once. I do think that Hard Eight, obviously, I do need to watch in its entirety. There Will Be Blood I've only seen once. I know how big that movie is and how much you really don't want to stop when you watch it. So I definitely need to watch that one again. Boogie Nights I think will always be at least in my top 2. I don't really see that moving much. The Master I think I do need to give another watch as well. Inherent Vice I think I've seen twice or 3 times, so I kind of know where that movie is. I just think it could move up a little bit, but I just don't know if it's the stakes aren't as high as like what would be in my top 2 or 3, like a Boogie Nights or There Will Be Blood. So I don't know if it'll ever be in my top 2, like you have it, but I do think Phantom Thread, I do need to give a little bit more. I don't really think I'll ever see much movement from like Punch Drunk Love, just because
Yeah.
that's kind of just like Adam Sandler's like fun, crazy comedy, but not like his usual. And then Licorice Pizza, I think I do need to give another watch because I haven't seen that I think since it came out. So those are kind of the ones that I do think could move around. And obviously, One Battle, I did buy it on YouTube, so I will be able to watch it a couple more times in the future. So I definitely think it's recency bias with my rankings, but I mean, we had to record right after, so I haven't had time to sit with it. I did want to note before we did talk about Leo and his last 25 years of movies. This was the first time since Boogie Nights that Paul Thomas Anderson agreed to audience testing before the movie came out. So I thought that was really interesting because he did eventually, with that audience testing, cut 8 to 10 minutes of the final cut. So this movie could have been close to 3 hours if they didn't have that testing, which I did think really helped it. I think a lot of the comments online that I did watch or did look at after watching the movie was that this movie is just 2 hours and 41 minutes of nonstop action, which I do think it's more of a 2 hour and 10 minute thrill ride with that 30 minutes kind of setting everything up and putting you in the world and you kind of getting adjusted to what's up with this Sean Penn guy. I think the rewatch of this movie, I think for both of us will really help us with is he the father aspect of it with what's up with Tiana Taylor's character, and it'll kind of like close together some storylines that you weren't really able to pick up on in the initial watch. But I think the beauty of Paul Thomas Anderson is that with him, it's not like an open and shut case with his movies. You can always find something while watching them. So I think that's one of the things that makes PTA one of the best, if not the best, 21st century filmmaker. So I think with art, it's so fun to do these rankings because there's no right and wrong answer. You can have Inherent Vice at number two, and I'm not going to fight you about it because at the end of the day, it's your rankings. So like it's not like a NBA or an NFL argument where there's statistics and there's championships. Like there are Oscars, which I do think that one battle after another, some people need to win. Sean Penn, I think he needs to win something. I don't know if it'll be an Oscar, but he needs to win something for his performance because he's absolutely going after it. I think the score has to win. Cinematography, I think, has a really strong case.
Yeah.
And with that, if you don't have any thoughts on more thoughts on one battle after another, we can get into Leonardo DiCaprio's last. I was just gonna have it be the last 10 years, but I do think we can look at his last 25 years since 2000. So one battle after another, obviously 2025. I think this is the greatest vaping performance of Leo's career and maybe just in general on the screen, the big screen. He's absolutely going for it. I love when he gets silly and you can tell he's having fun with it. The "What's up, homie?" and him like harassing his daughter's friends going to the prom was absolutely hilarious. I loved that scene. I think for Leo, the thing that I love that he's doing in his career is he's always really hooked up and teamed up with great filmmakers, Tarantino, PTA, and this being their first film together. Obviously, you have Christopher Nolan. He just knows what he's doing and he's picking the right spots and he's not just taking any movie. I think he has taken some L's in his career for sure. I think Don't Look Up, I haven't seen it, but I've heard not great things about that movie. There is a couple misses, but like Gangs of New York, but I think for the most part, he's batting average for movies. He's always making bangers and it might not be for everybody. Like I know Killers of the Flower Moon in 2023 wasn't for everybody just due to the runtime. I haven't seen it yet just because I know I really want to take it all in and I haven't carved out 3 hours yet of my time. But I think for Leo, since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he's made Don't Look Up, Killers of the Flower Moon, and then one battle after another. So for his last 5 years, what are your kind of thoughts on his career trajectory? Do you like where it's going? And what are your thoughts since 2020?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Since he's choosing to work with good filmmakers, he's just going to keep producing really good performances and characters that we will remember. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is one of my favorite movies out there. And then Don't Look Up it's I get like the criticism of it, and sometimes it's not like you can't take it as like a real like serious movie, but he is pretty good in it. He just kind of plays and it's been a while since I've seen this. This is one of the first movies I watched when I sort of started getting into him. But I do remember different scenes of him kind of just losing his mind. Like there was a scene where he's on national television and he just loses his mind. And um, he's somewhat of an important character in in that world because I'm kind of forgetting like what his real like role was. He was some kind of I don't want to say something that I don't know. I'm just gonna move on from Don't Look Up, but it's an all right movie, but he was really good in it. Killers of the Flower Moon, I watched the weekend it came out, so that was about 2.5 years ago. It was really good. It's a long movie, but he's kind of in it the whole time, and you sort of believe that his character is going to do right, and then he kind of just does wrong, and a lot of chaos ensues because of that. But I am looking forward to the trajectory of where his career is going. He did do an interview where he talked about how Vertigo, that 1958 Hitchcock film, was like a reference point for a film that he's working on with Scorsese. So it kind of sounds like we're gonna have another Leo Scorsese collaboration in the next maybe few years. You know, obviously he didn't give like a timeline or anything, but he did say Vertigo was a reference point for a film that he's working on with Scorsese. So that's something to look out for. That's pretty exciting. As far as like since 2000 goes, you know, I'm looking at his films right now, like when he kind of got onto the scene and then what other movies he was getting into. You know, I haven't watched Titanic, but you know, I'm sure he's great because that movie's absolutely iconic. Um, Gangs of New York is something I've really been wanting to watch. It's kind of just like the length of that movie. Because I want to watch movie when I first watch a movie, I want to watch it all in the same day. And it's just one of those things you have to make time for. But I do love Catch Me If You Can. I think he's really good in it, and it's a fascinating story, of course, but he really sells you on the character. I'm a big fan of that one. And then I have not seen The Departed before. I
Wow.
think that's like I
That should
think
be at the
that's
top
like
of your list, along with Eddington.
oh trust me, me not seeing Departed yet is probably like the biggest secret that I keep on like movies I haven't seen yet. It's by far like the very top of what I need to watch. Um, but yeah, I'm all into the Leo. I think he's gonna age very well as far as just like what characters he can be, and I'm excited to see how he's used in the future.
So for Leo, I've seen, I would say, of his last 25 years of movies, I've seen roughly half of them. The ones that I do miss or are missing is The Beach, Gangs of New York, The Aviator, Blood Diamond, Body of Lies, J. Edgar, and then obviously Don't Look Up and Killers of the Flower Moon. But all the rest I've seen. The Revenant obviously is his only Oscar win, which is a travesty in my opinion. Wolf of Wall Street, he gives one of the best performances. Him and Scorsese, I think, is one of the best director actor combos. I think you have to mention also Scorsese and Robert De Niro as well. And obviously Tarantino has his guys that he also likes to have, with Leo being one of them. Great Gatsby, I think a solid movie based off of a book. Shutter Island, I think if you haven't seen that already, it's a fun mystery thriller. I think it's one of the best movies to watch on a rainy day. Inception, I think I definitely need to give that a rewatch because that movie's a lot to take in on one. Christopher Nolan, I mean, I absolutely love his movies. Oppenheimer, I definitely need to give a rewatch as well. The Departed, I think you have to put that high up on your list because that one is stellar. The Mark Wahlberg character in that, John Hamm, you got a bunch of guys. Jack Nicholson is outrageous in that movie as well. I did want to mention Leo as a villain in Django Unchained is phenomenal. He's one of the better villains in a Tarantino movie, let alone movies of the last 15 years. I did have to bring up if we had to build an impromptu Mount Rushmore of actors that are the best at blowing up on screen in terms of pure rage and going off, like we mentioned, Leo has a couple absolute blow ups in one battle. I think Leo in, as you mentioned, Don't Look Up. I think him in once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he probably gives the best moment where he blows up in the trailer. That's one of my favorites. I think Leo has an argument, but I think I could probably fill a Mount Rushmore with other guys. I think it's close though. I think Al Pacino has to be on there. Him just going absolutely ballistic in Heat, Scarface, movies like that where he just blows up. I think there is a case to be made for Samuel L. Jackson. I think he has to be just going ballistic, going crazy. Pulp Fiction, one of the big ones. On this list that I have pulled up, Nick Cage, I think, has an argument as well of going crazy, like in Face Off, movies like that. And that's an argument. I think the first two are locks, but I do think there's a case to be made for Nicolas Cage. Denzel Washington is on this list. Christian Bale, think of American Psycho. Tom Hardy, Leo, J.K. Simmons, think of Whiplash. Gary Oldman, Adam Driver, think of Marriage Story. And Jack Nicholson, think of The Shining, A Few Good Men, and Daniel Day-Lewis, and There Will Be Blood. So of those guys, we have, I think Al Pacino has to be on there. And Nick Cage, I think, has to be on there as well. And then if we had to fill in two more spots, who are you filling in? I gotta call my movie concierge Logan for an impromptu Mount Rushmore. But of those guys, what two are you picking to fill it out? Do you think Leo takes one of those spots?
Leo can take a spot. I don't know how Joaquin Phoenix is not mentioned here. He blows up in Joker. He blows up in Walk the Line. He blows up in The Master. Um, and three of those were impromptu, like that wasn't scripted. And Walk the
Mm.
Line, and Walk the Line, he breaks a sink and smashes a guitar. That wasn't scripted. And The Master, he breaks this toilet that was like a ancient historical like building, and he just breaks one of their toilets. That was impromptu. And the Joker, when he punches down the time clock, that was all improvised as well. And when I think of Joaquin, I just think of like craziness and rage in his characters. So yeah, I'm like screaming for Joaquin Phoenix to be on this Mount Rushmore.
I looked up a list and he wasn't on it, but I think that's a very good addition. So the Rombough Show official Mount Rushmore with the help of Logan is Al Pacino. We got Leonardo DiCaprio, we got Joaquin Phoenix, and we got Nicolas Cage on the Mount Rushmore of explosive male actors of all time on the big screen. So, any final thoughts on Leo? I think his trajectory, I think, is excellent. I think him going into his, I believe, going into his late 40s, early 50s. I think he has a lot of room to improve and a lot of room to just play around. I think this character for one battle after another, the multiple names that he had, I think was super fun. His outfits, I think, has to be mentioned as well, was super fun. The pajamas, the huge glasses was an iconic look. I definitely want to do it a Leo costume next year for Halloween. So, any final thoughts on Leo before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm just waiting on The Departed to show up somewhere for free so I can watch it, but I might just have to bite the bullet and rent the $4 to watch it. I did want to say though, on the last PTA pod, we talked about how good he is with naming characters. How have we not mentioned Stephen A. Lockjaw? I mean that
Lockjaw was huge.
like that I told you in my theater people kept laughing. They died at that name, but I died as well. That was hilarious. Stephen A. Lockjaw. It just sounds like it's supposed to be like pretentious and stupid, but it still fit so well.
Yeah, PTA is one of the best people at naming. When I watched the movie, I knew I was in a PTA movie because I heard that name. So that was perfect. And that'll do it for our updated PTA movie rankings, one battle after another. We are bound to rewatch it again. I think we have to, just for PTA's sake. So thanks for joining, Logan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.